We will kill them all.
So we all know Bayverse Optimus as the most chaotic version of the character. The one who gave Sentinel buckshot to the face. He tore off Megatron's face right after the guy saved him. He actually did it twice. He tore off the Fallen's face. The guy had really found his new fetish at that moment.
Give me your face.
He did this. He did a lot of that. The thing is, he wasn't always so violent. People always forget how relatively, how relatively calm he was in the first movie. Above everything else, the safety of the humans was what mattered, even more than defeating the Decepticons, in a way. He was willing to lay down his own life to save the human race, and he would clearly rather do that than just kill Megatron. There's without a doubt a shift in tone somewhere in the saga where Optimus becomes the brutal and violent maniac that we all know. It's worth noting that this iteration of the Decepticons is far more violent and maniacal as well than most other iterations. But that isn't all that there is to the equation. It can be observed that his spiral into rage starts during the Force battle of Revenge of the Fallen. Let's take a look at the fight. At the start, Optimus is pummeling Megatron, not going easy at all. Although I don't see this as him being merciless. In a way, I see this as Optimus being really pissed at all the pain he had to go through in the first movie to bring down Megatron, only for the guy to come back anyway, and I can honestly understand him taking out some of his frustration on Megatron in that moment. And beyond that, there's the moment where Megatron and Starscream get some distance on Optimus and chase Sam through the forest. Does Optimus kill him here? No. Instead, he tackles Megatron and injures his leg to disable him from running. Then he grabs Starscream and tosses him away, all in an effort to keep Sam safe. Even now, despite how outmatched he is, Optimus is doing his best to show mercy, with his focus being on protecting Sam rather than killing the Cons. It's only later in the fight, after he's been triple tag teamed by the Cons, and after he eats Megatron's foot and takes a blast to the other side of the field, that he finally acknowledges,
"You'll never stop at one."
And we see what he does next. He goes ape mode on them. He's like an animal. He tears off Starscream's arm and slaps him with it. He completely mauls Megatron. And then he does a fatality on Grindor's face. The thing is, he's not exactly going psycho at this moment. In a way. Rather, he's in a frantic frenzy. He's in a rush. He just landed a foot on death's doorstep and now knows it's do or die time. At this moment, in this rush, he's wasting absolutely no chance anymore trying to take them all down. He's become overwhelmed with the fear of his possible failure and what that would mean for the human race and for Sam. And he's terrified of the Cons defeating him now and taking Sam, which he knows is the last piece of the puzzle. And with that dread overwhelming him, he acknowledges that this is a scenario where he can't afford to go in between like he had always done so in the past. So he takes the gloves off and becomes committed to finally finishing the job, and then he dies. Imagine him in his final moments, seeing Sam terrified right in front of him, and hearing Megatron right behind him, and knowing the only thing dividing the two now is Optimus' own dying husk. Optimus doesn't know for sure that Sam is about to get out of this alive. For all he knows, he just handed the Decepticons what they needed on a silver platter. And I think Megatron's last words to him might have left an impact on Optimus in his final moments.
You're so weak.
And I find it interesting to believe that Bayverse Optimus wasn't always a psycho, but rather he adapted some of Megatron's own mindset into him after he lost to Megatron. He realized the reason he lost was because of that weakness, and he needed to discard it. To take far less chances and be willing to risk nothing conquering his enemies, especially for the sake of those he cares about. And so it's no surprise when he finally wakes up in Egypt, back in the world of the living, right after the Fallen stomps him and steals the Matrix, and he hears the Harvester being activated. That he decides, enough's enough, and the rest is history. Optimus was always, from that point on, much less hesitant to go all out on his enemies, knowing that the last time he didn't and he was outmatched, He paid the ultimate price and almost doomed Earth. I'm sure we all know what happened in the 4th movie that caused him to become even more violent and desperate.
They were my friends.
But it's here in the forest fight where it all really started, even though there certainly could have been more focus on it. But I think it's clear just enough to those who pay attention to the fights, and especially to the context of his brutal scenes. The guy's been through a lot. He's been dealing with this gigantic war from day one. His home planet died, his friends all died, he died, his mentor betrayed him. I think at this point I can understand he can afford to let off a bit of steam. Also, I will say, I think it would have been really interesting to have more emphasis put on Prime's downward spiral into rage and brutality by having the other Autobots, or maybe even the humans, reacting to him becoming this violent, merciless maniac. Maybe at some points trying to bring him back to his peaceful ways and reminding him of the Prime they all knew and loved back on Cybertron. Whether it would have worked or not, it would have been interesting to have more of the dialogue focusing on Prime's shifting behavior, especially if said behavior was inspired by his own arch nemesis. But I ain't no writer, so that's all I've got. So thanks for watching.